Hello, everyone. Welcome to I guess the title is a little under construction right now, but we will all be your front-end web instructors and TA for the bot cohort for front-end development. So everybody get excited about it.
Oh, yeah.
We're super excited to see you all, or I guess speak to you all. And please feel free to share this and like and tell all your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your dogs, tell anybody with social media about this, so that we can get more people to learn and grow front end stuff. So yeah.
Frontend Rocks.
I know, right?
That's where all the fun is.
It really is. It's like where all the colors, all the awesomeness, all the like really cool like moving parts happen. It's the thing that you interact with,
Absolutely.
Literally the best. Like that's front end is literally the reason why anybody gets into coding.
Yeah, I think that's verifiably true.
Let's take a moment and say who we all are.
Oh yeah, we're just talking at you for no reason. Great. So hi, my name is Jenell. I am a front-end developer and a UX consultant. I work for some companies around the Orlando area, and I love it. It's my fave.
And how long have you been doing that, Jenell?
I have been doing front-end development for about 5 years now. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, you've been doing this for 5 years.
I know, that's crazy, right?
That is crazy. That is crazy. Next.
You go next, Brian. You're the other co-lead.
Okay. My name's Brian. I'm the other co-lead. I work in Orlando remotely for a company based in Boston doing front-end web development. I've been doing concentrating on front-end stuff for, I guess, about 5 years, but I've been involved in web development for closer to 15. So I've seen some things, and many of them are things that are completely irrelevant now.
Yes, and we're glad for that, right?
Yes, we are.
My name is Nathan Selikoff. I am currently a UI engineer for a company based in San Francisco. I'm working remotely. I've been doing web stuff for about 15 years as well, and lots of other interesting art and technology things. So yeah, I love front end. I love anything that's interactive and visual and animation and stuff that's kind of tangible. So that's where the front end love comes in.
All right.
Literally the best part. I understand that so much.
Now,
Well,
if you wanted to distinguish between front end and some other kind of, let's say, some other part of web development, how would you draw the boundary? What makes front end different from other ends?
Great question.
It's the pretty part. No one likes a rear end, right?
We won't get into that right.
Well, the front end is essentially what makes everything kind of look really cool to the user, right? So when you're on a website like Facebook, or you're on Instagram, or you are looking at ESPN for some reason, all of the like the things that you interact with, the buttons, the colors, the even if you're not necessarily a sighted user, right? You're looking at it or experiencing it as a user, maybe with disabilities, that's all front end, right? So that's the things that you interact with, that's the things that you listen to, that you see, that you can say, hey, I want something, right? So if you're in a store, for example, trying to purchase the new things on Pier 1 imports that are going on sale, and you're like, I'm going to click on all these things and I'm going to buy it, put it in my cart. All of the things that you're interacting with to get those items is going to be the front end. So Yeah, it's also the basis of the web, right? So the web really just kind of started with HTML, which is that's pretty spectacular. And HTML is essentially the backbone of the web, and that's what we still use today, and what you get to see and love and experience. So that's super awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I go along with that pretty much. We have the HTML is like the backbone, kind of the outline. If you remember English classes in high school where you just had to do, Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, what are the most important things, and then subheadings under that. That's kind of what HTML does. And then CSS is the one of Jenell's favorite things in the world. It's how you really make things pop and look pretty and make one page look different from another, having different color schemes and images and text shadows and all kinds of stuff like that. And then JavaScript, which is the programming language that exists on the front end, which really gives things the interactivity so that you can do stuff like click on an item and it immediately pops into your cart, and upvote a thing and immediately you get the little thumbs up thing to light up. And that kind of stuff is front-end JavaScript, as distinct from back-end web programming, which is what happens to all that information that you interact with as you send it off so that the rest of the world can see it. Like when you like something, how do people on other computers know that you liked it? Or when you place an order in a shop, obviously that transaction can't all just happen in your computer. The store has to find out somebody wants to buy something, we need to ship it to an address. And all that kind of stuff happens in what we call the back end, which is everything outside of your computer.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also, I do want to highlight that in case that kind of interests you, the back end instead of the front end, we do have a bot cohort for back end as well. So if that's something that's along your kind of lines and you're like, look, I really just want to deal with logic only. I don't want to deal with anything that has to do with the front end. That sounds terrifying. Totally understand that. Back end is amazing and spectacular in its own right, and you should come join us as for back end too. But yeah, let's talk about, I guess, what we are going to be teaching through our 8-week course for Black Orlando Tech, and essentially what we want to help you all learn and grow and continue moving forward in your careers as web developers or web designers or UI engineers or UX engineers or any multitude of things, right, on the front end. So the first thing that I think we want to touch on is HTML. That's kind of the structure of how we were talking about before. That's the backbone of the internet. And we definitely want to make sure that you have that in line. So that's going to be our first kind of topic, essentially. And if you were with us at our last cohort, that's something that probably is going to be really exciting for you because you're going to be like, yeah, I love HTML, it's awesome. And then the second thing that we're going to touch on is CSS. But we're going to go over a little bit more advanced CSS topics than we did in the last intro to web development. So essentially what this is going to include is not only just changing colors and things like that. We're also going to focus on things like media queries and making something more responsive. And what that means is we're going to be able to design our web essentially for every screen. So we want to make sure that the tablet layout looks good. We want to make sure that our, phone friends are happy and that people who are using giant screen televisions are also really happy with what we make, right? So we're going to learn how to do all that cool stuff and get really excited about that. And hopefully, if we have some time and you all want extracurricular activities, Nathan can help you all learn some animations, which would be super awesome. That would make me really happy too.
For sure.
Yay! So that would be exciting. And then after we learn how to create websites that are responsive and have a little bit of flair, we're going to go into JavaScript. But we want to make sure that you get the most out of your experience with that HTML and that CSS first, just because it is, a very huge point that a lot of people miss or forget about once they become superstars and they're like 10 years in their career and they're like, I don't even need HTML or CSS. It's very important and it's fantastic, and it'll make you stand out from every other developer if you're really, really good at HTML and CSS. And so then we'll learn JavaScript. And that's when we will start making really cool, fun games. So things like, rock, paper, scissors. That's kind of a really fun game to create. We could also do like tic-tac-toe and other games like that to kind of understand how JavaScript works and how it interacts with HTML. I think that's a really, really huge topic that we kind of want to touch on is marrying those two things together. Like, why do I need HTML if I have JavaScript? Or why do I need JavaScript if I have HTML? They're a beautiful marriage that you want to have together. So, yeah.
And those games, it's possible, I think, to just hear those names and think, oh my gosh, it's stuff I did in grade school. How hard can it be? And that's a sentence or a question that web developers like to ask themselves with a little smile, because we know that things that sound simple can have really surprising amounts of difficulty associated with them, because these things are simple to us, they're simple to you listening, they're simple to us here talking, but they're not so simple to the computer, because the computer is kind of stupid. And it turns out to take a lot of work to explain very carefully to the computer how we want to play tic-tac-toe and rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, in fact, I would say the magic of what front-end developers do is make complicated things seem simple.
Yes. That will be the goal, to take things that turn out to look easy by the time we're done with them.
Yeah, for sure. I know that, and this might be a little daunting, I have personally been shamed by rock, paper, scissors many a time in my front-end development career. Rock, paper, scissors has kicked my rear end many a time. And that's totally okay. It's a fun learning experience, and it gets you understanding and growing. I think we have a question from Raul.
Yep.
When did we all start coding? So I started about 5 years ago.
I had a couple of false starts. I think I was introduced to programming. I had a Fortran class in college in about 1993. That didn't.
Nice.
Yeah. And then where I really got going, my first time seeing Perl and PHP was in grad school in about 2002. But I didn't immediately become a web developer right after that. I worked in other stuff for a couple of years. So basically 2005, I would say, is when I just dove in, and I've been going ever since.
Nice. I actually started learning about programming when I was 6 or 7 years old, in the mid 80s. And my dad is a software engineer, and the first computer that I remember having in the house was a Commodore 64.
Yes.
Which, yeah, if you look it up, you turn it on and you get this blue screen with a cursor, and there's no window, there's no operating system. It's not Windows, it's not Mac, it's not MS-DOS, it's just a cursor. And what you could do is just start typing in a program in a programming language called BASIC. And so I used to get a magazine, a kid's magazine called 321 Contact, which would have a simple program. Like, about this, Brian, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Simple program, maybe like 50 lines of code, and just type it in, print it out on the magazine, just type it in line by line. Have no idea what I was doing, but like slowly get that sense of, wow, I'm learning how to talk to a computer.
Yeah.
Like I'm learning a new language. It's like learning a new language, and you feel really empowered as you start to get to know how to communicate with a computer.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm going to have the theme song from 3, 2, 1 Contact, the
Yes.
logo stuck in my head for a while.
Oh, so good.
We have another question from the comments. How deep will we go into JavaScript? And I think that the answer to that is another one of the software developers' favorite answers to everything. It depends. I feel like we don't really know how much people will know coming in. And so I would like for everybody to get 8 weeks further along than they are right now, wherever they are right now.
So, hi, Evan. Evan is actually one of our students from the last cohort. So
awesome.
You know exactly where he is.
I know, he's the best. We will be getting pretty deep, a lot deeper into JavaScript than what I guess we went through with HTML and CSS in the intro. So essentially, think of it for you that for you it'll be like a glaze over for HTML and CSS, right? Well, a glaze over for HTML, but CSS is going to be a little bit more expanded, and JavaScript is going to be kind of like getting into it, right? Like we're going to not necessarily build Facebook, right? We're not going to be those people, but we are going to get like how we talked about getting into games and things like that. Doing those games shows you essentially the core functionality of JavaScript. So I know, and that'll help you continue growing and learning so that if there is, ends up being like a more advanced class, even more so than this, that you're able to build on that knowledge and create bigger and better things. Does that help? I think, I can't really, because I don't understand if, you know, the comments
How fast the comments come through, yeah. I have a follow-up question related to that for the both of you. Okay. Are we going to be sticking within what we'd call vanilla JavaScript? In other words, things that are just built into the language? Or are we going to look at any frameworks that people might have heard of, things like React or other stuff that's out there that is built on top of JavaScript?
So personally, I would say that I want to stick with vanilla JavaScript just because a lot of the times, you know, it's really rough. And as someone who I went to a boot camp, and that's how I learned how to code. And we went from JavaScript for like a week and then immediately jumped into a framework. And as much as like, you know, it's an intensive thing with a boot camp, right? Like you're quite literally coding 60 hours a week. So all you're doing is showering, maybe. And yeah, occasionally, eating sometimes, and coding. That's literally it. That's all you're doing. And so even then, I felt like it was still not enough time that I spent on just JavaScript. And so I got really into React, and then I got my first job and then my second job. And I was like, well, I need more JavaScript knowledge. I am broken inside. Yeah. So I think, you know, if we get as much JavaScript in this 8-week time as possible, it'll be kind of like that stepping stool to help you get to that next level of, you know, hey, you know what, maybe let's try React, or let's try Ember, or let's try, you know, Vue, which personally is my favorite right now. So yeah.
We can't really get into the frameworks as we immediately have framework battles between me and Jenell, which one we ought to.
We shouldn't talk about that, because then we'll spend the entire time just like yelling about Vue versus React versus Ember, I feel.
Yeah.
Something that gives people real headaches in front-end development is the pace of change that happens in a lot of stuff. And something that I think can reduce that amount of mental churn, in the sense that, oh my gosh, there's a whole new year's worth of stuff to learn every week, which that math doesn't work out very well, is to think of it like there's very core ideas in the language that have been the same since JavaScript was invented in 1990. And then on top of that, there are some features that have been added to the core language that come out every year-ish. And then on top of that are these frameworks that come out, a few a year. And then on top of that are tools within the frameworks, which seem to come out every couple of hours. And so as you get higher up that stack, the pace of change increases and it gets harder to keep up with. So we're going to stay down at the really fundamental stuff because it is fundamental and because it moves slower. So if you learn that once, then you're set. And you won't have to worry about your knowledge getting outdated the way if we try to teach, the latest and greatest. Here's the coolest thing as of mid-July 2020. Well, by mid-August 2020, some of that stuff is going to be gone.
Yeah, I think that's a really great question, Nathan. I super appreciate you asking that.
Yeah, that's important.
So Raul has another question. Do you think you have to start young to be good at coding? Definitely not. So it seems like Nathan and Brian started pretty early on, which is pretty awesome. And so they're spectacular, wonderful. I said wonderful, but wonderful and amazing. But I only started 5 years ago. And I mean, I think I'm pretty good at what I do. I love sharing, my knowledge with other people because I feel, I started off, to give a little backstory, I guess, I used to be a bartender for a really long time, and then I learned how to code. And so, you can come from any background, so it doesn't matter where you started. So it doesn't matter if you're good at math or not good at math or like colors, don't like colors. I know a couple of developers who are, so one is completely colorblind. So he's got, it's really hard to pronounce, but deuteranopia, I think it's what it's called. And a different kind of color blindness as well, both mixed together, which is incredible. And he's a front-end developer, super awesome. We've got blind developers, which they're incredible developers as well, building amazing things, working for Google, right? And a lot of these people come from different places. They didn't start off wanting to code when they began coding, right? So I think a lot of people that I've seen recently that are fantastic and amazing and spectacular are people who come from backgrounds that are just completely unrelated to tech in every way, shape, or form. You'll see artists who become straight up just developers, and the things that they make with code are beyond just beautiful, and not just visually speaking, but even their code, the way that they write it it brings such a beautiful perspective to code. And I love watching newer developers, especially ones that have learned in the past 6 months, come up and show me things, because then I get excited because I learned something, and that makes me super stoked, right? It's really cool to watch people who have been coding for 15 years, 20 years, and have always been kind of in that world, because you get to learn something cool and new. But also people who have just started 6 months are super insanely awesome. For example, Evan, right? Evan, who was in the cohort, the last cohort for front end, would write notes essentially to himself by creating mini websites. And it's literally you would look at his code and it would just be I didn't teach you that, and I'm so proud of you, and it is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And it just, I'm kind of going to cry a little bit because I'm very proud of him. But yeah, it's just, everybody can come from not coding from literally anything and be the most amazing developer. You don't have to be from a technical background at all in any way, shape, or form. So
I think it's very common for people to feel, Raul, wherever you are, if you're not already in it, that there's some kind of reason that you're not going to fit. am I too old to start? Or do I need to have a 4-year degree to do it? Or do I need to have a computer science degree? Or do I need to be this kind of person or that kind of person? And like I said, I've been working in this for a long time, and I've taught a lot of people, and I've seen people from all over, people from any kind of educational background, people from any kind of socioeconomic position. And if this is something that they really want to do, and it's something that they just really enjoy and they put the time in, then people from a lot of different places can become very good at this. So I don't think age is any kind of obstacle to learning and getting started.
Yeah, I would say also a couple things that come to mind. Coding by itself is fine, but it's not really a superpower until you connect it with something else. So it's a skill set that will level up whatever else you want to be able to do in life, whether that is art or finance or entrepreneurship or name any profession, and if you're able to layer coding on top of some specific knowledge about that profession, that's what puts you in a unique position to be the person that knows about coding plus X. Another thing to think about is that one of your main questions when you start learning coding about yourself should be, do I enjoy this? What parts of it do I enjoy, and what parts of it do I not enjoy? Because there's a large ecosystem of languages and techniques and places where you can be involved in tech. And there's a lot of demand for more and more people to have these skill sets in terms of like what jobs are out there and what jobs will be out there. So your goal is to find something that connects with you and that provides that motivation to be able to put in the time and effort that's required to learn. Because once you find that thing that really connects to you, you have all the resources at your fingertips to be able to continue to learn. And I mean, the way that things are online right now, in terms of the resources that are out there, you could dive deep in any number of areas, but you got to find that thing that really triggers something in your mind or in your heart where you're like, man, this is so cool. This has really got me.
Yeah, for sure. Like the whole reason why I got into code, and this might sound like the dumbest reason ever, but it's what brought me to coding, was I wanted to organize my makeup. Literally, that was the only reason I got into code. So I would have literally the same color of lipstick everywhere, like in the car, in the bathroom, in the living room, in the other bathroom. It'd just be everywhere. And then I'd go, to buy more makeup because I was a bartender and you gotta wear makeup as a bartender. And I would go and I'd be like, you know what? I really like that shade of rose gold. I'm gonna go ahead and buy it. So I'd buy it and bring it home, and I'd have 4 others. And I'd be like, I need to stop this. Whatever I'm doing, I need to stop. I need to reassess my life and figure it out. And, that's how I learned to code. And just by solving that problem, right? Granted, I created an application, a web application that would fix that problem for me, and then immediately stopped using it because I got so excited about code and got really in love with it that I ended up doing a bunch of other things with it, and ended up, quitting my job and being like, you know what, coding is amazing. Why am I doing anything else but coding? And so, yeah, you can literally, it could be as simple as like, hey, I need to, organize my shoes. I need to make sure that, I'm feeding my pets at an appropriate time, and I'm feeding them enough, right? Like solving simple problems for your everyday life can help you code, which is the coolest thing.
Absolutely. And I think that's an awesome example too, because, too many people in tech look like Brian and I. And, I don't have the rose gold lipstick problem, but, part of the reason Bot is putting on these cohorts is to increase diversity and representation in tech and to inspire, new generation of folks to come on in. And we need that diversity and representation so that we're not just solving a small subset of problems that only some types of people care about. So like you said, it's very, once you have that tool set of coding and you can start to see how you can solve problems, then it's the marriage of that skill set with the problem that you're motivated to solve that leads to the creation of new apps and new websites and new companies.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you learn to code and you have some kind of problem that Nathan and or Jenell and I are just blind to because it's not something that comes up in our lives, then you're in a much better position to solve that problem for yourself and for other people who also have that problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And especially in these times now too, there are a lot of people who are like, you know, they've got things that are going on in their lives and they'd like to solve them, right? You know, figuring out how to deal with, you know, healthcare, like, or childcare or things like that, right? Learning how to maybe like create tools or games to keep your child entertained while you're working, or, you know, anything like that, right? It's things that, you know, we need to understand, and the more diversity that we have, the more people that we have coding, the better that we can solve these problems, which is awesome. So
another question popping up, app development. That's kind of a slippery term because if you mean app development to be specifically something that you get from the App Store for an iPhone or like the Google Play Store for an Android device, then the answer is no. But if you're talking about having an interactive kind of experience that you can experience through a mobile device, but it lives on the internet, then the answer is yes. And I think the feeling of, I'm going to guess all three of us, is that you can make a mobile experience with web technologies of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that rival pretty much anything you can do on a mobile device. And I have friends who are just pure iPhone developers who will fight me on that, but they're not here.
They don't have the microphone.
Right.
Yeah, a good example is if you think of something like Twitter. So you could download the native, we call it a native app when it's designed to run specifically on iOS or Android. You could download that app and run Twitter that way, which a lot of people do. But if you open up mobile Safari or Chrome on your mobile phone and you go to twitter.com and log in, you'll see that you're on mobile.twitter.com, and it's going to behave 90% like the mobile app does. And that's all based on core web technologies that we're talking about, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
Yep. And to extend on your answer, Noah, there is such a thing called like a PWA, which is a progressive web application. And it is something that you can essentially create like, you know, applications for the web, which is kind of cool. But we will not be going into that, which is sad. But it is something that after you have learned lots of fundamentals, so if you did take this class, you would have the tools that you need to continue growing and learning and create that for yourself. I really want to kind of take this moment and ask that, you know, if you are here to make sure that you're sharing, right? This is super exciting. And to second of all, if you have any other questions that maybe you're not necessarily, maybe you might be like a little worried about asking in a public chat or anything like that, feel free to message us either via bot. There's a Slack that you can be a part of, so Black Orlando Tech Slack. Or you can message us. I know Nathan and I both have Twitter. I'm just giving your information out here, Nathan, if you're cool with that. If you have any questions, definitely DM us on Twitter. We're more than happy to answer any questions there as well. So that way you can get a little bit of privacy just in case. And then Nathan, what's your Twitter?
It's at Selikoff, and that'll be put into the chat on Facebook and YouTube, so you can not have to spell my last name.
And then mine is at Nellaro, Nellarro. So it's like part of my first name and part of my last name. So yeah,
I'm an elderly hermit, so I don't speak to people through social media.
Jenell, maybe we could also just recap again, like how the course itself is going to work, and how many weeks will it span, and what the time commitment will be, kind of those basics.
And what the days are.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So this.
If we have dates, we have dates.
We're learning. So this will definitely go. It'll start off on Monday. Start off every Monday, right? So on August. So we'll do Monday evenings, yeah. So this is an 8-week course. I feel like I just like paused my whole life. I was like, what's going on? So it'll be an 8-week course, and what we'll be covering is HTML. More intermediate CSS, and we're going to be covering intro to JavaScript. I would also, just make sure that you know that we are, supporting you, we're loving you, we think that you're amazing no matter what skill set you have or where you started. So if you're like, I'm amazing at HTML and CSS, I'm fantastic, don't even worry about it. We still want you to join, and we still want you to learn, and we still want you to grow. So it'll be 8 weeks of learning and growing. You do get a kind of midterm. So around the 4-week mark, there is a, hey, how you doing? Making sure that you know things. And then towards the end, you also get another kind of test, essentially, where it says, hey, have you done all the things? Is it great? Like, have you been learning? Have you been growing? So personally, the way that I teach, I will never say that you failed anything. So you can't fail my course at all, ever. So yeah, as long as you've learned and you've made some growth from the beginning to the end, then you've won. You've taken the class, you've been amazing and super excited and amazing for you, right? However, if you like been in the course and you're just like, I'm just coasting, I'm doing nothing, and I like watching, things happen. Then we're gonna have to personally have a conversation. We're gonna have to fight a little bit, but I don't think that happens with anybody. Like
just a little bit, though.
Yeah, just a little bit. We're just gonna have to fight a little bit, but definitely it's gonna be supportive and loving and fantastic. So literally don't think just because I have zero experience that it's going to be too hard, or because I have X amount of experience that it's going to be too easy. We'll figure it out together, and we'll grow it together for you all. So yeah, I don't know if that helped. Was that a good recap? I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I was just like, love. Let me just shout love really loud.
Yeah, I think that's a great start. Jenell, how deep are we going to get into accessibility? That's an area that I know only a little bit about and would love to learn more about.
So it's my favorite. So in the last cohort, we definitely talked a bit about accessibility. There was a whole I think a week or two about it, and I know Evan and Jay were probably like shaking their fist at me a bit. But yeah, so that's going to be part of our HTML. And I don't want to dive too hardcore into it. What I do want to focus on is making sure that we're using semantic HTML when at all possible, because that's kind of your first line of defense for accessibility. And grow from there. So if there's any kind of interest in accessibility, I, kind of growing it in a bigger way, and more people want to learn about it, I would definitely, in this cohort, point you to really great resources for accessibility. And if it's a huge thing where like everyone's like, look, we just want to focus on accessibility and that's it, like I will personally make time to teach you all about accessibility on my own time.
Nice.
Because it's so amazing.
All the
But
ARIA tags.
I know, it's going to be wonderful. Like we'll learn about screen readers. It's going to be fantastic. Yeah, if you all find that that's something that you want to learn, definitely let Bot know. Because that's something that we could maybe even make into a whole course by itself, because there is a lot to talk about with accessibility, not just, you know, something that you could learn at an intermediate or like an intermediate/intro class, you know?
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Quick confirmation, Mondays, yes?
Yes, unless you want Tuesdays.
I could not do Tuesdays, and apparently the Eventbrite had said Tuesdays, but we could make it Mondays. I just want to make sure all of us are on board on Mondays.
I mean, I thought it was Monday, and so now 2 out of 3 people have said it's okay for Monday. Nathan, are you cool with Monday?
I am cool with Monday. I thought it was Tuesdays, but I'm totally cool with Mondays.
We're live and on record. It's on Mondays. Cool. Nathan,
we'll get all the info updated on the Eventbrites and such.
Does anybody have any other questions? Either like Nathan or Brian or anybody in the chat?
I think maybe one thing we haven't brought up, if another question doesn't come in, is the connection between the content that we'll be going through and potential career opportunities. And kind of if somebody's thinking really kind of focused about career development and like trying to get on a path towards, you know, maybe their first job in tech, or like switching from maybe a different subject area to front-end development, kind of how those things will intersect.
Yeah, so Bot offers help with finding careers afterwards. So that's going to be through, you know, connecting with your teachers, right? So the really cool thing about us is that we all work in web development and, you know, things like that, right? So that means that if you are fantastic and learning and growing, we will help you find things. Just, I mean, as long as there's an opening, right? Or we might know somebody who is hiring, or we might know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who's hiring, right? And so we'll help you that way. But it also means that you have the Bot network as a whole to network with. And so it's not just the 3 of us. You have the 3 of us plus our network plus Bot's network, which is an incredibly huge network, and then their network, right? So it goes on almost exponentially about, you know, the people that can help you find jobs. And we're also here and willing and able to help you with resumes and things like that. You know, I know for sure on Bot, you know, someone asked me like, hey, I see that your, you know, job is you know, has this career available. Is it cool if you referred me? And they like, I don't necessarily know that person, but I knew the person who was referring them, and I trust them. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll refer you. So I don't know how that's going, but it's been, you know, put in motion. And so we'll help in any way, shape, or form that we can, for sure.
Yeah. And I just went through a job search process over the last 3 months or so, looking at a bunch of opportunities. So I can talk some specifics about what I've seen out there, some resources that were helpful for me. I spent most of my career freelancing and consulting and not working full-time jobs. So I can also talk about that side of things, and some of the pros and cons, or ways that you can get your foot in the door on that side.
It certainly is very helpful to get to know as many people as you possibly can who are working in the industry. And I know all of us would be happy to help anybody who enrolls in the course and gives it their best shot. I would caution anyone who is kind of thinking about this and hoping that maybe if they take this course, then as soon as they'll be able to go out and land a job. We're not going to be able to get you to that point. There's just not enough time. we can help move you along, and we can give you direction for where to go afterwards. And we can talk some about what kind of jobs this could, point you towards, but this isn't going to be something that will get you there on its own. But for the kind of jobs that you might run into, if you think about, if you've been to any big website that's been around for a few years and has maybe gone through a major redesign, and suddenly you log in, oh my gosh, where are all of the buttons I used to click, and there new icons and new screens and stuff? How did all this happen? That's the kind of stuff front-end web developers are responsible for. Remaking sites, everything that makes one web page, one website look completely different from another. That's because of front-end web developers. So if that kind of thing appeals to you, and any kind of thing that happens within the browser, if you can imagine, like if you turned off the wireless, turned off the Wi-Fi for your computer, what things could you still kind of do? That's front-end web development. So all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's a good point.
With the knowledge that you get from here as well, and your continued growth, to leave this course and immediately get a job, like because I think most of us are in Orlando, in the Orlando area. I think to get a job immediately from there, working in the Orlando area might be hard, but it's not impossible. It has happened to some people. It is very rare, but it has happened to people. But a good thing to start off with is to create your own wealth, is what I like to call it, and essentially build websites for people that you know. So even if that's something like doing Squarespace, but a custom Squarespace site, because you know how to do that now, right? Because you'll have that experience and that knowledge, or a custom Webflow site is also something that, you would have that knowledge and experience to do. That's going to give you that like freelance, gig here and there to put you in that experience level. So you'll start getting that actual experience to continue growing. And then very soon after, you can get that, that, I guess, corporate job if you so want, or you continue like freelancing and growing and, creating, your own business. Even you can do that, which is pretty awesome. So
definitely.
And also don't feel like because you've taken this course that you're locked into front-end web development. It's not like, imagine if you were going to college and thinking, okay, first semester freshman year, I better pick my major right because it determines the career that I'm going to have for the rest of my life. That's not how things work, and that's not how this is going to work either. You could get into this and maybe decide after like week 5, I really like JavaScript, but CSS is horrible. Well, okay. It's good to find that out, and then you'll know for the next thing that you want to learn, you want to gear more towards programming language, so-called classical programming languages, and maybe less UI, UX design kind of work, and that's fine. Or maybe you love CSS and HTML, and JavaScript gives you the heebie-jeebies. That's fine too. We need both kinds of people. But find out through this course, you'll get exposed to a lot of different things. You'll find out you like some things, you don't like some things, and that will inform your decision on what you learn next.
Well said.
Yay! So Noah asks, is there a possibility to assist with web portfolio review? And what items should be in your portfolio or resume? There's a lot of question there. It's very loaded. Yes, we will definitely help with web portfolio review. We send it to us. If you're part of the class, definitely send it to your teachers first, right? Because we're going to give you the most constructive criticism, and we're not going to hurt your feelings, hopefully. So that'll be the first kind of go around. And then definitely get somebody else to look at your portfolio as well, typically in the bot network, right? So you want to go to maybe another teacher for a bot, like, even if that's like going to the backend teacher or the cloud teacher, or instructor rather, so that they can look at your portfolio, because a lot of the instructors for bot as a whole have done hiring or have been part of that hiring process and understand what a good portfolio looks like as well. So not just us, right? So if you don't ever feel comfortable, just talking to, let's say, like your next door neighbor or something like that, definitely go to your network. And so what items should be in your portfolio or resume? So that really depends on what you want. What is your goal? So if you want to be that kind of just front end person who's only doing, layouts and like making things pretty, and you kind of have maybe minimal amounts of JavaScript desire, then you want to make sure that your portfolio and your resume kind of is geared towards that. It also depends on the job, right? Because some jobs are asking for, let's say, they want 5 years of experience with React, and they want you to do this and that and jump through hoops, and you have to show that you can do those things, or that you are willing to go and learn how to do those things through your portfolio and through your resume. So you want to make sure that you gear each resume towards your job, whatever job you're applying to. So you should not have one resume. You should have multiple resumes. Your portfolio should kind of reflect who you are as a person, what you can provide as a person, right? So just as much as you want a job, right? That might be your first thing. Like, I want a job. That's it. That's what I want. You also have to realize that the company is not only looking for somebody who can fulfill the role, but they're looking for a unique human being, right? They want you to be yourself. So they want you to be awesome Noah, or, awesome Deetra, or, awesome Nathan, right? So like they want you to be your most awesome, authentic self. And so you have to show that in your portfolio as well as your resume. So it's a lot of hard work, and it's not necessarily a one pass kind of thing, but we'll be there to help you every step along the way.
Yeah, there's a learning curve for sure, and not all jobs and not all job descriptions are of equal quality. So, a big part of this is also being able to parse out a job description and determine, oh, that's probably not going to be a good fit, not just because of what they might be asking for in terms of skills or experience, but also just the way that they phrase it and the way that they think about the role that you would be playing in the company. Like, companies vary quite a bit in the quality of development teams, and you really want to be looking for, you always want to be looking for, the best of the best that are going to value you as a human being, along with what skills and experience you bring to the table.
Yay! I'm just like dance breaking it like every 12 seconds. Don't even judge me. This is how I live my life. Great. So I think we are pretty close to time now. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact us, via Twitter, or, contact us like via bot. There are questions, I think they are in the chat right now, as well as on Facebook and on YouTube. So info@blackorlandotech.org. We would love to answer your questions, and hopefully you join our class or any one of the other classes that bot is offering, but definitely our class, because our class is awesome. And
it's going to be great.
That we would really, we like it. We like front end. We really like you. We don't know you yet, but we like you already. So please join us.
Well, you know some of them, and I know I saw at least one familiar name. So
that is true. That is true.
We like a lot.
So please definitely join us. We would love to see you in our class. We're really excited to learn and grow together, because you'll be teaching us just as much as we'll be teaching you.
100%. All right.
Cool. I don't know how to end this. I feel like we're just We're like, we love you, keep bye.
Bye.
To play us out, and we don't.
All right, bye everyone.